Hello and welcome to the channel. President Tinubu is currently in Paris, France for World Leaders Summit. Tinubu has had the chance to address the forum, and some of the leaders present also had the chance to discuss with the Nigerian president. Details of all of these coming up. Subscribe, like, share, and comment. Thank you. Bola Tinubu meeting with French President Macron, Emmanuel, UN Secretary General, other world leaders. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on Thursday joined world leaders in Paris, France on the consensus for redesigning the global financial architecture, which will favor poverty reduction, debt restructuring or cancellation, and more consideration for vulnerable countries affected by climate change and coronavirus pandemic. Nigerian News reports that this was made known in a statement on Thursday by the Special Advisor to the President, Special Duties, Communication and Strategy, Dele Alake. Tinubu arrived at the venue of the event, Palais Brongniart, at 8:59 a.m. local time for the opening ceremony of the high-level summit for New Global Financing Pact, and he was received by the French Minister of Europe and Foreign Affairs, Catherine Colonna. Welcoming the world leaders to Paris, French President Emmanuel Macron said the summit would focus on drawing up a new financial order that will scale up finances and support developing countries for energy transition, poverty reduction, while respecting the sovereignty of each nation. The French president noted that African countries had been at the receiving end of the major global challenges, with debt hangovers that hamper growth and development. Coronavirus pandemic brought lots of difficulties, and now we are faced with the war in Ukraine that has been draining resources that should be channeled into human development, he said. Macron told the leaders from 50 countries, multilateral institutions, and the private sector that justice and fairness must be imperative in redesigning the new world financial architecture with more focus on the most vulnerable. The French president listed 4 elements for consideration by the leaders, starting with an acknowledgement that reducing poverty would require collective efforts with a more diverse and comprehensive framework. We must admit that no country can succeed alone in reducing poverty and protecting the planet, he added. Macron said the framework should be relevant to each country and sub-regional roles included, with clear responsibilities and benefits, while multilateral institutions like the International Monetary Fund and World Bank must be re-engineered to be more people and solutions-driven. The French president noted that the private sector must be carried along in the new pact that seeks to harmonize growth, as they control most of the financial instruments that needs to be liquefied for more even development, especially on health, education, and food security. On behalf of the African countries, the president of Niger Republic, Mohamed Bazoum, said the new pact must be urgent and essential to Africa, and the framework should be just and robust in reflecting the reality of developing countries as partners. Bazoum said the challenges of impoverishment and desertification had stimulated unrest in most countries, affecting peace and stability in sub-regions on the continent. In Africa, we need support for infrastructure, health, food security, and education, he stated. On his part, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres told the gathering of leaders that the high-level summit would need more mobilization and political will for redesign and implementation. The UN scribe said many countries were still struggling from the effects of coronavirus pandemic and climate change, and the war in Ukraine had heightened sufferings. Guterres said some African countries had been unable to service their debts, with indications that generations might be affected. African countries, he said, were not properly captured in the global order. He said the new global financial pact must address fragmentations and frustrations and enable the kind of change that encourages debt relief, suspension of repayments, change of business models, and more commitment from development banks with guarantees. The UN scribe said leaders must look beyond reforms and accept the need for transformation. We are at a moment of truth and reckoning, and we can make it a moment of hope, Gutierrez said. climate activist Vanessa Nakate from Uganda, who called for a moment of silence for the helpless and hopeless across the world, said broken promises cost the lives of many in developing nations. The presidents and leaders of multilateral institutions and the private sector at the summit went into syndicate sessions to discuss the new financial architecture. President Tinubu will on Friday participate at the summit, which will unveil a new global financing pact and mechanism for implementation. Subscribe, like, share, comment, and please turn the notification bell on. Thank you. Meanwhile, reports have indicated that President Bola Tinubu traveled with a light delegation to Paris, the French capital. Nigerian News recalls that Tinubu on Tuesday arrived in Paris, France, for the summit on new global financing pact, which will be hosted by President Emmanuel Macron. The president will participate in a two-day summit, June 22nd and 23rd, that will look at opportunities to restore fiscal space to countries that face difficult short-term financial challenges, especially the most indebted, mobilize innovative financing for countries vulnerable to climate change and economies struggling with the effects of coronavirus pandemic and energy crisis. However, a source who spoke under the condition of anonymity told Vanguard that unlike what was obtained in the past when the president goes on a foreign trip with a large delegation made up of party chieftains, Tinubu decided to go with a light delegation to Paris. The source explained that some of the governors are trying to lobby for ministerial positions, but Tinubu is avoiding them. The source said, for now, Tinubu is trying to avoid these former northern governors. He is trying to distance himself from them. Some of these former governors had wanted to accompany the president to Paris, but he refused and insisted that he would only attend the summit with his aides. Meanwhile, the special advisor to President Bola Tinubu on special duties, communications and strategy, Dele Halake, on Thursday declared that reports of a salary increase for political office holders and judicial officers were not true. He made this declaration in a statement issued on Thursday. While it is the constitutional duty of the Revenue, Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission (RMAFC) to review and adjust salaries, Alake clarified that such changes have not been approved at this time. That's the news, guys. Thanks for listening. Until next time, bye.